There's two things that I cannot teach: work ethic and attitude. You have to bring those things. Everything else I can teach you, right? But work ethic and attitude have to be there. And I have had people that they walk in the door and you can tell that they went and bought a shirt for this interview because it's still wrinkled, right? But they realize the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of the Robert Nelson Show. Today, I have a special guest. This man is the managing partner of Lasting Mark, the co-host of the Medicare Sales Playbook. He's a regular speaker at 8% Nation. Dallas has over a decade of experience in insurance sales, agency development, and leadership. He's trained hundreds of agents, helping them grow and improve client interactions. A natural motivator and leader, Dallas is known for a straightforward approach, real-world insights, and ability to turn sales challenges into opportunities. When he's not recording or coaching agents, he mentors producers, leads workshops, and focuses on helping other agents succeed. Dallas, thank you so much for being part of our episode today.
Man, Robert, it is an honor, and that's a lot to live up to, dude.
I know.
Right? Like all I heard was he's old, you know? So, no, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So Dallas, one question I wanted to ask you, right? In my social media stratosphere, it seems like a lot of our audience, 18 to 35-year-old male, they're really wanting to get into things like high-ticket remote sales, even door-to-door pest control, door-to-door solar, selling AI offers, right? But I don't hear a lot of people speaking about the opportunities in Medicare and even health insurance as a whole. First, could you tell us why you think that might be, and also what opportunities they're missing out on?
Yeah, man, great question. There are three reasons why people should sell Medicare. Number one, the market is enormous. We are going to spike this year and it'll start going down, but not by much. Baby boomers are turning 65. And so there are 14,000 people every day turning 65. So the market is there. Now, the competition is also there, but anything that's worth doing, you're going to have competition in. So I don't let that bother me at all. There's enough for all of us. Secondly, it's residual income, and that one probably should be first. I tried to avoid Medicare for years. I sold life insurance. I started with my career with Mutual of Omaha in 2001, and I sold life insurance. And I love selling life insurance because, like you said, it's more big ticket. And so I've got agents that have written $400,000 target premium policies, and those are very, very nice. And if Dallas ever writes one of those, you'll see me naked on a beach for at least a week, right? You'll see me on the news. But the opportunity for residual income, to wake up one day knowing you're going to make $20,000, $30,000 that month before you make a sale. That's the biggest reason that I got into it. I just saw these other guys do it, and I thought, Dallas, you're an idiot, man. Get into something that'll pay you. Smart people, their money is growing while they're sleeping, and residual income does that. And then the third thing is cross-selling. We try to train our agents. I say we here at Lasting Mark and on Medicare Sales Playbook, we try to train our agents that every person you get in front of, yes, you may have gotten in front of them because of Medicare, but they are an opportunity for everything you do. And that's where we bring in a cross-selling sheet. Some call it a cross-serving sheet or whatever. They're just an opportunity for everything that you do. So that's why I think you should. I think the reason why you shouldn't is it just from the outside looking in, why people don't, not why you shouldn't, why people don't do it is from the outside looking in, it's not as sexy. It's not as shiny. Right? Like I said, if you're just selling Medicare, you're not going to sell that $10,000 ticket item. And so, but man, the guys that get in it, stick with it, and cross-sell, they wake up in 2-3 years making 100, 150, 200 grand before they sell anything.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting approach because I think for a lot of people who maybe are in B2B sales, they're on a salary right now, they're thinking of making the jump to commission only. There's fear there. One of the cool things I think about the insurance industry as a whole is the availability to make your own schedule and the flexibility. And so I think there could be some potential there if someone can make residuals to have that, to build up that comfortability to where they can say, okay, I'm making $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month now. I can now start to go hunt even more life insurance or have some final expense leads. I think that could also be a potential opportunity there. What don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite books is by Dan Milet, and he talks about buy back your time. I'm sorry, not Dan Milet. It's buy
Dan
back
Martell.
your time. Yeah, Dan Martell. There it is right there. Buy back your time. That's what Medicare does. It buys back your time. I do not want to be known as an insurance agent. Like if I die and they put insurance agent on my tombstone, I have failed miserably. I want to be known as a guy that worked hard in everything he did. And by working hard, he was able to do more of the stuff that he loves. Now, I love insurance. I love helping people, but I like hunting. I like spending time with my family. I like working on my car, that kind of stuff. And so that allows me to do that. And one thing you said that just, it's pet peeve's not the right word, but I want to think people to think differently. They talk about, well, I don't want to because it's commission only. Every job on the planet is commission only.
Yeah.
It may be structured differently, but try go into your hourly salary job and not go to work, not do your job, not work hard at what you do, and you will find that one goes away too. Right? Your pay, commission will go away too. So everything is based on how hard you work.
No, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely a fact. And also one thing I thought of as you were saying that, right? Like the way we kind of train life insurance agents to build up that residual income is through recruiting. And of course you should be recruiting, building out your agency. That's great, right? But then as you all know, especially when you're starting off, it's like you're not going to probably get the A players for a little while that are really going to change your business. You're going to recruit your mom, you're going to recruit your cousin. They may or may not get on the phones and sell. They may not have the same motivation as you. So I'd imagine like selling Medicaid where you're getting Medicare, where you're getting those residual payouts, it kind of can even cover you in that time frame for when you're trying to recruit and kind of grow your agency that way.
100%. And I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that drives me crazy, and I've said that like 4 times now, so I got to stop saying one of the things. It's a bunch of things drive me crazy about our industry, is people come in and they're like, okay, welcome to the team. How do you spell your last name? Go get 20 people.
Right.
And I'll never put down another FMO, IMO, LMOP, whatever. One of my favorite comedians is Jim Gaffigan, and he talks about what's it like having 5 kids. He said it's like you're trying to swim and somebody throws you 5 kids. That's what recruiting on your first day looks like. You don't know what's going on. You have no clue, and you just go get people. The time to go get people and recruit them is when you have a system that you can say, hey, look, just come do what I do. Here's what I did. Here's what you do on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Here's what you do on Thursday at 5, right? Here's what I did. Here's what I had to spend. Don't come in and say, hey, listen, this is a millionaire. You're going to be a millionaire in a week, and all you got to do is show up 6 hours a week. No, you don't. You got to put in 60, 70 hours a week. You got to spend money. You got to get out there. And then, so have a system, have expectations. But then the important one that you said, you need to be able to have the income from residual income coming in, so that if you don't make money, right, for a month, you're okay because you're out helping that agent. You're out working with them. You're out helping them, all that stuff, right? So having that income coming in where you can say, look, if I don't make a sale for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm okay because I'm out helping these guys.
No, that makes sense. That definitely tracks. And I think kind of what you mentioned, right? When I first got into insurance back in 2019, I was recruited by an IMO. I know you don't want to talk crap about IMOs, and I won't say their name.
Yeah.
But it rhymes with that. Let the listeners understand what that is.
I'm going to get a cease and desist now.
No, I am. You're good. We can cut that out if we need to. But one thing that they did was, before you even got your license, they're like, list your 10 people that you know best, list this. And they took those leads and they ran with it. Now, what happened with me is I actually had like a come to Jesus moment when I had that, because I realized I didn't have any real friends. So I was like hopeless, and no one told me that I could buy leads. Nobody told me that I could do any of this stuff. I didn't know anything. I was like 24 at the time, or 25 at the time. And that was like my first sales real job. And so I think like if someone had introduced me to something more like Medicare or anything else, it would have been, or even just the option of buying leads, I think that would have been helpful for me if I would have actually stayed in that and probably had the success I wanted to have at that point. I wanted to ask you we started to touch on it, but new recruits, right? Again, part of this show and these interviews is to introduce people to new opportunities. What are the qualities that you are looking for in new recruits primarily?
That is a great question, because the most valuable thing that I have on this planet is time. I can make more money. Don't tell my wife, but I can make more money. I can go out and buy toys and cars and all that stuff. The most valuable thing that I have on this planet is time. So if I go into recruiting viewing it that way, I then realize that every person I get in front of, they have to qualify to take some of my time. And that sounds brash and arrogant, but it's not, because I am going to invest 100% into people that will return that. And all I mean by return that in the beginning is just, in the beginning especially, just do what I say, right? John Wetmore is a buddy of mine, and he talks about, give somebody a task and, play fetch with them. Tell them, hey, go do this and come back and see me again. If they don't bring the stick back, we just keep throwing sticks out there, hoping they'll grab one, and our arm hurts at the end of the day. And before we realize that they're back over there working at Buc-ee's, We've got to make sure that the people that we pour into are vessels that are worth being poured into, right? And they will return. So I love helping people. It's why we started the Medicare Sales Playbook. I'm a big believer in Zig Ziglar saying the easiest way to get what you want is by helping enough people get what they want. So I do love helping people, but it's also one of the most frustrating things that I've ever done in my life. Because somebody walks in and you see the talent, right? Like they're better looking than I am. They've got more charisma than I do. They've got more hair than I do, right? They've got all the stuff. They've got everything it would take to succeed in this business, and they just won't do it. They won't put in the effort. They won't put in the time. So if I were starting an agency today, I would make it like most of the time people come in and, we start up recruiting, and recruiting simply means, hey, can you pass an insurance exam on your fourth try? Which, listen, I took it 3 times. So I'm not knocking that. Can you pass an exam? Okay, yes, come work for me. To me, count it an honor and a privilege to have somebody work for you. If you're going to pour into them, count it it's a great privilege. It's a great opportunity, right? This business, I just came back from Mexico, man. Like, I was peeing in a pool in Mexico 2 days ago. I never thought I'd have that opportunity, but here we are. And so when they come in, I would have a 3-step interview process. The first one, I would tell them about the opportunity, who we are, what we do, what they can do, what's possible. Don't sugarcoat it. Again, it's 60, 70 hours your first couple years. You're going to have to pour money into it, but I would make them aware of it. The second interview, when they came back, I would tell them, now go do some research and come back. When they come back, they better know something about me. They better know who our company is, what we sell, how we sell it, I want them to research it. And then third, talk to the spouse. On that interview, bring the spouse. Because here's what I have found many, many times. People will come in and they're full of piss and vinegar and they're ready to charge hell with a water gun, but their spouse is like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So they go home to that every day. And the spouse is like, did you make a sale today? They're like, no. They're like, well, are you ready to give up? Are you ready to quit? Why don't you quit? Why don't you go work for my dad? Why don't you go do this? If you do not have that support at home, you're not going to survive in the office. So those are the 3 things that I would do. Make sure, do 3, and relay to them, hey, if you put this in, I'm going to change your life. And I'm never going to ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself. But it's an opportunity.
I think that's so true. And I love what you said about involving the spouse, because I think there's a lot of men or women out there that they've got this idea and they're bought in, they see the potential, they see the money, but the spouse doesn't. And, you may have the internal fortitude to withstand a bad day of sales, but if your spouse doesn't, then you are going to go back to that. And that was one thing, like, when I was first getting into sales like that, that was a challenge, because I didn't really bring my wife and get my wife involved. And when you're out there in the field doing everything you can, and you come home and your wife's like, well, where's the money? And she doesn't understand it. She doesn't even understand the potential. Like, yeah, that is when you're going to have issues.
Well, and think about this too. It's disrespectful to them.
Yeah.
My wife and I are one, man. Like, we were put in this, I'm in this marriage. We've been married 25 years now, and everything I do affects her. Everything she does affects me. And so it is disrespectful to her if I make that major life decision and she's not involved in it. Are you kidding me? Right? Like, imagine your guys, we get upset if our wife goes out and buys, spends $200 on clothes and doesn't confront, but yet we're out here making life-altering decisions. And it's kind of like, the one objection that's almost impossible to overcome is the one-legged sale. So, Robert, if I'm coming to you and I'm interviewing you and I get all excited, I'm ready to rock, I'm ready to go, and then I go home and tell my wife about it, it's not going to translate the same way, right? It's kind of like the guy telling his wife, hey, man, we got to get insurance. We got to get life insurance. And she's like, why? And he's like, well, I want to take care of you. She's like, well, I'm fine. I don't need it. Well, he said a bunch of good stuff that I think would really make you come on board, but I don't remember what it was,
Yeah. No, it was even crazy because I was listening to a call yesterday with one of our top closers, and same exact thing happened just in the life insurance aspect. It was a mortgage protection sale, and the husband was there but wasn't really listening. And then at the end of it, like as they're about to make the application due payment, he's like, well, I'm not paying for anything. And that's real, right? And that's like one of the things I teach about handling that objection is if the spouse is there, it's going to be solved. But even from a recruiting standpoint, like you're saying, like if your wife isn't on board or your husband isn't on board, yeah, you are going to have those problems, and it is disrespectful. One question I wanted to ask you as well is, you mentioned those who have talent. They have all the abilities, they have all the tools, it seems to be worth it. And then sometimes you have guys who are not that talented, right? Aren't that pretty. But the guys who don't have any talent sometimes way outperform are the ones who become your superstars. And the guys who do have the talent, they just faint out. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people who have all the talent and all the ability and could crush it, why do you think they fall off?
Because so I'm a big Kentucky basketball fan, right? Mm-hmm. This last year was one of my most frustrating years to watch Kentucky. I probably watched less Kentucky basketball than I've ever watched, because we had a bunch of recruits that were very, very talented, and they had relied on their talent their entire lives, right? And that works in middle school, that works in high school, in AAU ball. But when you get up to Division I basketball, your talent level isn't that much above the other guys that are there too. So So people that have relied on their talent their entire lives, when they hit an obstacle that their talent can't overcome, the work ethic isn't there to overcome it. There's two things that I cannot teach: work ethic and attitude. You have to bring those things. Everything else I can teach you, right? But work ethic and attitude have to be there. And man, I have had people that they walk in the door and you can tell that they went and bought a shirt for this interview because it's still wrinkled, right? Tag may still be on it, right? But they realize the opportunity, right? Maybe they haven't combed their hair in a week, and there may be a conversation there that needs to be had to be like, okay, look, here's your appearance will help, dude. Think about it. Would you let you into your house? But they are hungry. They realize that this is an opportunity. This may be their last opportunity in their head or whatever, but they're hungry. They're ready to rock, man. Like I love, man, his name's going to escape me right now. One of my favorite speeches, and just don't get old, kids, was when the gentleman talks about you got to be hungry. You got to be hungry. And so I love it when people come in and they may be unpolished. They may not know what to say. You may have to correct their language in one way or the other, right? But man, you tell them to run around the block and they'll ask how many times. They're out there. They're doing it. So I think that's it, is when you rely on your charisma and talent, and those things are great to have, don't get me wrong. You will get so far, but you will hit the obstacle that can't overcome.
It kind of reminded me of this conversation. Did you get the opportunity to watch the UFC fight that happened at the White House?
I didn't, no.
So I'll give you some context. The challenger for the title is a man named Justin Gaethje. He's 37 years old. He's been a dog his whole career, one of the most exciting fighters, and he never was able to win the undisputed belt. He was going up against a guy named Ilia Topuria, who is probably the greatest talent we've ever seen when it comes to MMA. People were comparing him to John Jones, right? And nobody was giving it to Justin. And Justin's obviously the American, Topuria is a Spaniard. It's at the White House. But you could see that what we just talked about that grind, that grit, actually manifest itself in the middle of the fight, because it was just a dog fight. And at the end of the day, the guy who had the dog in him won, and the guy who didn't, who had all the talent and is a great fighter, great champion, still could very well go on to be one of the best of all time. We saw him quit on his stool because he just couldn't take the beating. Yeah. And I think what you said there is just a perfect analogy of that.
Well, look at the Knicks. If I would have
52 years.
If I was a gambling man, I'd have lost some money on this title. because Victor Wembanyama is one of the most talented basketball players we have seen in decades. 7 foot something, right? 6, 7, whatever, can shoot outside, can do anything he wants, can dominate the game. And the Knicks came back 3 or 4 times. It was incredible. I love this morning. I was watching a clip. Stephen A. Smith was on an interview. He was, there was 3 or 4 people in the interview, and they're being interviewed, and Jalen Brunson is sitting beside him. And he said, listen, I'm a grown man, and I will admit I was wrong. I did not understand the fight that Jalen Brunson had in him.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that he wanted it that bad. I thought that was really cool. One more story. Dude, I'm a storyteller. My daughter, last week, we moved my oldest daughter to Oregon, which I live in Missouri. I put 64 hours in a car last week because I drove her up and then I had to pull a trailer back home, right? And on the way up there, I told her, I said, Shelby, she's 20 years old. I said, you realize why you're doing this, right? You realize why this is happening, right? She said, well, it's a good option. I said, no, because you wanted it. You wanted it bad enough to make it happen. And I said, Shelly, this is a great lesson. When you want something bad enough, it will happen.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes that's a bad thing, but sometimes that's a good thing. Like, go out there with the ferocity of a crackhead without $1 in his pocket. They're going to find some crack, man. I don't know if you're out here, but if you want
whatever you want
bad enough, you will make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point too. And I think for me, like, I'm a big extreme ownership guy as well. Like, you own everything. I don't care about who your IMO is, what company you work for, or who that is. I am where I am because of the decisions that I've made, the good and the bad, right? I gotta take credit for both. The bad situations I've been in, the good situations I've been in. And I think the same is true for you. And I think for new reps, like, you gotta realize, like, even if you are gonna get into insurance and you're gonna work for an AI or a software company or wherever, you've gotta own your own business. You've gotta be Rob Nelson Incorporated. You've gotta know that, like, when you're in sales, you are a mini entrepreneur inside of that business, and everything is on you. And if you can't handle that, you should be in marketing.
So, I love that, being marketing. Here's the thing, man. I heard something this week that I think is absolutely brilliant, and I'm going to get to it in just a second. But look, I failed twice in this business, and I back then I had all the excuses lined up. The leads sucked. Like, the other guy was getting all the good leads. My manager didn't want me to succeed as bad as he wanted somebody else to succeed. I didn't have the right training. I didn't have the right scripts, all that stuff. Everything that I hear every day now. And honestly, some of it may have been a little bit true. But at the end of the day, it is not my manager's responsibility to have me succeed. And if those things are true, it's my job to get out of that situation. Yeah. Go find somebody that will pour into me. It's not he is doing his job. He may not be, but the job that he is doing is his, and he is responsible for him. I am responsible for me. I heard this week, a gentleman told me, and this is absolutely brilliant, and I'm actually working on it this morning. Casey Peterson, who is an agent of ours, they're up Teton Medicare. They are one of our most successful agencies. These guys, Casey and Lee, they run Teton Medicare. They could quit today. They could never sell another policy today and just be fine. They do very well. But I asked him, I said a couple things. Casey, I said, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? And he said, never. He said, because I now have people relying on me underneath me. He said, that sounds very direct. And Casey's the most humble guy in the world. But he said, Dallas, I always want to do more, right? I always want to be able to give more to people, because he said, the more I have, the more I can give, right? And he said, now, don't get me wrong. I will retire one day and all that stuff. But he said, Dallas, here's what I have done. He said, I have went to AI, ChatGPT or Claude. I think he uses Claude. And he said, I have created a board of directors for my business. He said that my board of directors involve people. He said, on my board of directors, and I can't remember the names that he said, but it was Henry Ford, Abraham Lincoln, one of the founders of his church, right? You could put, you could put Dan man, I'm getting very bad.
Dan Martell.
Yeah, you could put Dan Martell. You could put, I'm looking at my books here. You could put, let's see here.
Ziegler
on there. You could, and those guys are on his board. He asked Claude, create a board of directors with these people. So then he goes to that board of directors and he asks them, Claude, I need this question answered from my board of directors. It pulls everything that all of those men or women have ever written, and it answers the question in the way they would. How brilliant is that? I could have Henry Ford as my consultant. And I'm like, that is brilliant. He's like, and I have one for every avenue of my business. He said, in marketing, I have the best marketers that ever walked the face of this earth. They are my board of directors in marketing. In sales, I have the greatest salespeople to ever walk the face of the earth. They are my directors. And I'm like, man, I've got to start doing that. Why haven't I done it? So the opportunities, all of that is there. The brilliance is there. We have more now at our fingertips than we've ever had in our life.
That's crazy. That's such a cool and creative idea as well to kind of pull in. There's really no excuse in our society today, right? Like probably back in your day when you got started in 2001, obviously.
There's that old thing again.
I know, right? I was 8 years old, so, but you know. But there was none of that. There isn't even really a Taylor sales presence. I don't even think Zoom and Google Hangout and any of this stuff was really even around at all.
When I started, they said, go write 200 of your closest friends on a piece of paper. I still have it in my drawer right here. I was going through my mom's address book because there was no Facebook. There was nothing like that. I'm like, Mom, is this guy still alive? Can I call him? Right? Do we hate him or like him? And then I'd write him down, you know?
And then back. But there's no excuse. There's no excuse anymore. Like we have AI, we have plethora of YouTube. Like I dropped out of college back in 2018. I just never finished it because it was just kind of bored me to death. And I've always felt like, because I gave up. I was very directionless at that time of my life. I wanted to go pursue ministry and do evangelism and do these kind of things. So I kind of went that route. And I always felt like bad about it. But now that I look back today, it's like, well, I can put myself through college. I don't need to go to a university to put myself through college. I can go watch all of Dan Martell's videos. I can watch, Medicare Sales Playbook. I can watch.
There you go. Thank you.
I can watch anything. I can watch Cody Atkins. I can watch, Dana Neeson. I can watch Matt Ryder. There's like so much education that you can get for free. The question, I think, comes back to what you said is how bad do you want it? How bad do you want the opportunity? How bad do you want to succeed? Because you're just in a competitive arena with yourself is really the reality.
I did a study on AI here recently, about a year ago. I really dove into AI and I wanted to find out what it could accomplish and all that. And I read this article that said, back in the day, so I graduated high school in 1996. I don't want to know how old you were then. I don't think you were. Okay, 3. Yeah,
3.
Thank you. And so back then, if I wanted to write a paper, I was limited by the information that I could go pull off the shelf or go to the library. And man, the information was there, but it was a lot harder to obtain and it was a lot harder to bring into one place, right? So at that point, my output was limited by what I could find. Now we have completely flipped the tables. My output and what I'm able to do is now limited by my imagination. Because if I can think of the question to ask, it can be answered. So we are now completely flipped where all the information is there. We just have to have the imagination and the desire to seek it out.
Wow. Incredible. One thing I want to get back to as well is when it comes to Medicare sales specifically, you've got, I think this can apply to everybody, because one thing I believe is that when you get very seasoned and experienced in an industry, whether it's medical sales, insurance, AI, whatever it is, right? Trading becomes, 10% new information and 90% reminder. And then also you have new people who are looking to get in to learn something. So if you have a new agent, they're full of piss and vinegar, their wife is on, they're dedicated, they want to win. What are the best steps, practices, things for them to do? What is a playbook for someone who's new or maybe someone who is experienced and just needs a reminder? What are the basic things you would give to someone brand new agent for them to do day after day to have the best chance at success?
Okay. Number 1, surround yourself with great people. Your ceiling is your surroundings. You will never do better than anyone that you have surrounded yourself with. There may be the odd person out there that goes out and kills it, but man, have those mentors, right? There are 2 types of people in this world. We had our annual conference here last month, a couple months ago, and one of the gentlemen that got up on stage, I think he wrote 1,400 applications on his own pen this year.
Damn.
And as I looked out in the audience, I could see the 2 types of people. There were people that said, oh, he must have cheated. he must have, he's got to be paying for those, or he's just flipping his book or whatever. And what they're doing is they're making excuses as to why they could never be here, right? The second type of person that's sitting out there going, dude, that dude is made from the same dirt I am. And if he can do it, why can't I do it? If it's possible, he just showed me that it is possible. The old Roger Bannister story, man. Nobody thought we could run a 4-minute mile. As soon as he did it, like 12 people did it in the next year. Your mindset is determined by your surrounding. So number one, surround yourself with great people. Number two, the system is the system. You have to have a system to get in front of people on a regular basis. Now, in the beginning, you have two things. You have time and you have money. And most people start out with a bunch of time and very little money. So you have to invest your time very, very wisely. And that's one of the big things that Dan talks about in his book is whenever you invest your time in the beginning, he said, my goal, my money's here, my time's here. My goal is to get it to do this. I want to find out what works and I want to dump a bunch of money into it, as much as they'll let me. Because if I can get a return on investment, I'm going to do it. But have a system. And the way to have that system goes back to the people. Find yourself an amazing mentor. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. There are people out there making millions in whatever. If you want to sell solar, there's people making millions in solar. If you want to sell Medicare, there's people doing it at a very high level. Go attach yourself to them like a friggin' leech and do not let go. And just do what they do. Have the system. The system is the system. Just work that system like crazy. And then number three, the biggest thing for us has been cross-selling. If anybody wants it, my email address is dallas.keithley, Keithley, at MedicareSalesPlaybook.com. If you would like, for Robert, you've seen me speak. I've never sold a thing from stage. I'm not selling anything here, okay? If you would like, the first 10 people that reach out to me, I will spend 30 minutes with you and I'll show you our cross-selling sheet and I'll show you how to do it and I'll show you how to brand it to yourself and I'll show you how to use it. It has been the biggest difference in our business. We made $1.2 million when we first introduced it as an agency, just by using that, making everyone aware of everything you do every time. And then having the opportunity to use it. For example, like we have at Lasting Mark, we have our Elevate program. So any agent in our company and even outside of our company can send people over to our Elevate team, our retirement team. They will write the app and then they get half the commission. Wow. We introduced that to our people. We're going to do $120 million in annuities this year, right? So, I mean, having that opportunity. We brought in Sam and Stephanie McCann. They are with their company is called Gold Tree Life. They do estate planning. Wow. We've had massive cases come out of that because we send people over to Stephanie. We refer people over to Stephanie using that cross-selling sheet. She tells them, hey, listen, you need to, your trust is great. We're going to set up your trust, but you need to fund it with life insurance. So go tell Dallas you need $1 million life insurance policy. And they walk back in going, hey, I got to have a policy. Where do I go? Right? So sending that over to them has been crazy. I can show you how to do that too. We do estate planning, annuity planning, retirement, all that stuff, everything down to dental. All of that is listed on my sheet so they know everything I do every time. That's
incredible. And that is great stuff right there. And especially you talked about like the teamwork. Like one thing that someone said at the conference, 8% Roadshow that we were at was being able to dive down on your specialty and partner out your weaknesses. And I think that's just like an incredible example of that. I mean, a lot of people may be scared to get into annuities because it's a big discussion. If you don't have the experience, that can be sketchy. But if you have someone that you can also give it to who's a real expert, can really walk people through it, your odds of closing that deal just go up astronomically. Yeah. One thing I really want to pick your brain on, and this is selfish, and guys, if you don't have a podcast, get a podcast because you can get free coaching, But you said something at the 8% Roadshow that literally made my ears perk up. You mentioned LTC policies, long-term care. What I just know for a fact that because we talk about boomers, boomer generation, there's 14,000 every day that are turning 65. A lot of the way the economy is structured right now, unfortunately, is a lot of millennials are probably not going to be able to take care of their parents as they get older and get into that age. So long-term care is going to be necessary. I know for a fact there's lots of investments from major players into long-term care. Can you give us like a walk down of how to approach a long-term care insurance sale, how you would approach it, what the differences are, and what is the potential financial incentive on that?
Yeah. So listen, I have goosebumps. Here's why. I believe outside of life insurance, long-term care insurance should almost be mandatory. because our country is going to face a major crisis. You know why we have Medicare Advantage plans? It's because our government saw people coming that were going to be turning 65. There's going to be 14,000 people a day turning 65. So they went to companies and they said, hey, you have to create something to help us or we're going to go broke. The government now sees that in long-term care plans. The problem with long-term care plans is it's kind of like dental insurance. When somebody walks in saying, man, I really need a nursing home policy, I know they can't get it because the reason they're coming to me is because they realize they're going to need it next month. So you can do it. I think anybody over the age of 50, and man, I would say really anybody, because nursing homes are full of people that had car wrecks, that are in their 30s or whatever. The way to approach it is I simply like to ask 2 or 3 questions. And this is where I use that cross-selling sheet. So if I were sitting here with you today, Robert, I would ask you, what is your long-term care plan? What's your plan if you have to go to a nursing home or home health care, have home health care?
Don't got
one. The number one answer is I don't have one. Yes, you do. So right now, here's your plan, right? Let me lay it out for you. It's been set up for you by the government. Right now, if you had to go into a nursing home, and this is very powerful when you're sitting with a husband and wife, right? If you're sitting with a husband and wife, you'd say if one of you, because very rarely do both of you have to go in at the same time, if you needed home health care or needed to go to a nursing home, the government would have you spend down your assets to $2,000. And if you don't, again, that's where it comes into having it set up in a trust. There's things you can do, and we can introduce you to those people so that you don't have to spend down your assets. But right now, the government has it so that you are going to spend down your assets to $2,000. Now, that's when you turn to the other spouse and say, how do you feel about that? If he has to go into a home and now you have $2,000, right? You're screwed.
Yeah.
Then what they do is once you've spent down your assets to $2,000, then they choose the home that you go into. They choose the bed that you stay in. They choose your roommate. Right? All of that is chosen by them and you go stay there. Now, it sounds horrible, and it is, but it's not, because you have to do something. I'm glad they've got something set up, right?
Right.
Option 2 is you fund a long-term care policy. And there's a lot of different ones out there. The old long-term care policies are where you just purchase a policy. Those are kind of gone. There's like 2 companies that still sell those. But what we're seeing a lot of people do today is they're taking and putting it into an annuity or a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider, or maybe it's a long-term care annuity with a life insurance rider or whatever. But they're putting a bucket of money in there. And for example, one of my favorite products is with Equitrust called the Bridge. You put money in there, and based on your health, they will match it or even go up to 3 times what you put in for a long-term care plan. Right? So you have to have $50,000 to start it. You put $50,000 in there. They ask you like 5 health questions. If you're in good health, they'll give you a 3x rating. So now they do 3 times whatever you put in it. The worst everyone's approved, the worst they will do is 1 time. So it's about, but the whole thing is about asking the right questions. What's your plan? Right? Another great question I like to ask is, hey, do you want to go to a nursing home? Of course not. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you realize here's the way it typically happens? And I could go on and on about this, so cut me off when you need to. The way that it usually happens is you need home health care. You can't do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living: bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, continence, and transferring, right? You can't do 2 of those. So you need it, but you can't afford it. So your condition deteriorates. And now you get to a place where you have to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
Most people do not choose to go to a nursing home.
No.
Their family chooses because they just can't take care of them anymore, right? But if you have a bucket of money to spend on home health care, it can keep you out of the nursing home because when you need it, you can use it. You start getting better because you're getting the right care, and now it keeps you out of the nursing home. So really, a lot of the policies I sell help you stay out of the nursing home, right?
No, that makes sense.
If you really get that obstinate person, you tell them, do you want your daughter wiping your hind end?
Yeah.
Do you want your son changing your diapers? How do you feel about that? Right?
Wow. No, that's incredible.
May get you kicked out of a house, but it'll grab their attention.
No, but I mean, listen, I mean, we live in the world of hard conversations, right? Like insurance isn't about everything going right. It's about when everything goes wrong and being ready for that. It's the way I see it. So long-term care applies obviously to nursing homes. Does it apply to assisted livings? And you mentioned home health?
Home health, yep. Where, a lot of people, most of the money today with long-term care, a lot of it is spent on home health.
Yeah.
Where let's say, so what determines it is, like I said, if you are unable to do 2 of the 6, right? If you're unable to do 2 of the 6, they can have a nurse come in. And a lot of times, sometimes it's just they'll come in and they'll change some bandages and they'll help them bathe, right? Or they will, they can't, sometimes they'll even come in and have them clean the house a little bit or something like that and just help them get out of bed in the morning and get going. It's
awesome.
Or, sometimes you have a bucket of money there. It may not even be home health. You could have them say, look, I can't get in and out of my shower anymore. I have some money that I can spend to put in one of those walk-in tubs and a ramp to my front door.
Wow. That's great. That's incredible, because a lot of people are putting money aside, into medical bills, like with their work, but if they can put that money into a life insurance, a long-term care policy, a lot of things kind of get covered. No, I think when you said that, I was like, that is going to be massive, and it's going to be a main focus of mine coming up here soon. I'm getting my health license and my LTC, and I'm going to go off on that, because I think there's such, and even you think like you get all these final expense leads, right, or even older mortgage protection leads, whether it's Medicare, whether it's long-term care. One thing you said at the conference that really will help me was don't look at your leads as just a final expense lead or a mortgage protection lead or an IUL lead. Look at the opportunities and see what else you can do to serve them. I think that's a really helpful nugget for me that has really been on my mind, and as I go about building out my own insurance practice.
Yeah.
With that said, I think we're coming towards the end, Dallas. What we're going to do for this YouTube channel is we're going to put links down to Dallas's Instagram, Dallas's website. If you want to send me the link, Dallas, for for people to get in contact with you, go ahead and send it to me. But what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
MedicareSalesPlaybook.com has all of my contact info, and you can reach out to me anytime. Yeah, like I said, and I said 10 people. I don't do math in public. I'm not going to count. If you reach out to me and you show that, hey, I'm going to do what you say, I'm going to pour into myself, I'll help anybody I can. I would love to.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. Hopefully you learned something great. This was a lot of great content. Take it, use it, and until next time, keep selling.